So good morning. My name is Allison Gerber, and I'm a program officer with the Annie E. Casey Foundation, where I work on employment-related strategies. For those of you who don't know anything about Casey, we're a private philanthropy whose mission is to create a brighter future for the nation's children by developing solutions to strengthen families, build paths to economic opportunity, and transform struggling communities. So why employment? Simply put, employment is the primary means for which most Americans earn income, and income is the way that we stabilize our families and our communities. And so I just wanted to say a couple words today about the Foundation's interest in summer jobs, or as I tend to call them as District of Columbia resident, summer youth employment programming. So my perspective on summer youth employment has changed over the years. And for those of you who know me, I tend to be a skeptical, somewhat critical person. And so for me to go from a place of sort of criticism of summer youth employment to an investor in strategies that support summer youth employment, I think that that says a lot about what I've really seen as the promise of this work. And so just wanted to share a little bit about my journey in hopes that it helps us better understand some of the arguments for and against this work. So I'm somebody who started in workforce development, really in the sector strategies place, thinking about deep partnerships with business, longer-term engagements and skill building, really robust wraparound supports. That to me was everything I understood about what good workforce development looked like. And the truth is the concept of a very short-term experience that matches youth with an employers based on limited knowledge about that job and about the skills and interests of the young person, that provides a sometimes limited or no link to educational opportunities that are structured, that sometimes does not provide wraparound services, or for which we know relatively little about the outcome measures, is almost the exact opposite of what I understood to be a good workforce development program. So that would be my primary criticism. But I will say, my journey kind of in changing started when I worked for Mayor Gray here in the District of Columbia. I will say I was not in any way responsible for the summer youth employment programming in that job, but I did get a little window into this logistical challenge that folks have brought up and what it sort of means. And what I could definitely see every year was the line that would wrap around the building with young people and their parents who would stand in line to come in and get their name in the system for summer youth employment programming. And what I know about young people is you don't stand in line for things that you don't want. So, it's like the first clue that something of value is happening there, and that we really need to pay attention to what that value is. I would also say that, because we do a scale of summer youth employment here in the district, as the WIB director, we did host young people in our office. I would say we probably were not the best hosts of the young people in our office. They did a lot of the things that Mayor Nutter said we shouldn't have them doing, a lot of filing, a lot of sitting at the computer. I would like to believe that window into government helped a couple young people kind of become, future leaders, but I'm not sure we did a good job of that. And we probably could have done a lot better. So fast forward to my current job, I was kind of, little on the fence about summer youth employment. I'd seen some of the good, but I've also seen some of the ways that we missed the mark. And is really my job when I came to Casey 2.5 years ago to design a new employment initiative targeting young adults for the foundation. I'd be honest, summer youth employment was not high on my list of sort of interventions that we would be investing in. I really wanted to design something that looked more like those sector strategies that deeply engaged employers, that contributed to the long-term labor market success for young people who made long-term investments in their skill building and supportive services. But the truth is part of the job of a at least decent program officer is to question your biases and to force yourself to really hear folks out and to better understand what is the experience of folks out there in the field. And what I found was sort of two things related to summer youth employment, that there are many, many, many places in this country where they were thinking about how summer youth employment could be integrated into a more seamless set of opportunities for young people. That there was this knowledge of an asset that we were already investing in some cases, in some cities, somewhat significantly in terms of dollars, and that was a place to build on. And then there were a few places, and some of them really came out in the research that Martha did, where they were using it as a platform for innovation, where they truly understood that summer youth employment was one time in the year in which they could grab a hold of 5,000, 9,000, 20,000 young people, and that there was some opportunity to use it to assess and triage and to link to other opportunities. And so that sort of ongoing sort of researchy internal foundation listening tour was happening. On April 27th, 2015, when I was on a site visit in St. Louis, Missouri, where we were learning a lot more about the pipelines for young people that were being developed there in the wake of the Ferguson riots. And we were sitting on the tarmac due to a rain delay when what were peaceful protests in Baltimore soon became civil unrest. And I was there with my colleagues, many of whom are parents of young people who are in middle school, who are in high school, who live in Baltimore. And it was so clear to all of us that what our young people were telling us in that moment in time is that we were not doing enough to make sure that they were a part of the fabric of our communities and our economies. And so it became, we are deep investors in Baltimore in the Casey Foundation. We are hometown philanthropists. It's very different than the national grant-making role that I play. We're local political actors, and we have to really reflect in that moment and say, like, have we done enough for Baltimore? Our young people are really telling us this, and what should be our response? And a good part of our response was summer youth employment. And so I think that that was the moment that really changed how I thought about the role of summer youth employment in building brighter futures for our young people. Summer youth employment was the answer in response, or the beginning of an answer, for a number of reasons. One is that there was this research that had been done out of Chicago around lessening justice system involvement for young people. And we can say that that's not really an employment outcome, but in fact it really is. It is an employment interrupter for sure, right? And something that we have to be really cognizant of. It also was, we spent a lot of time engaging in youth voice and in community voice, and it was a clear thing very quickly that families and young people were asking for that we could in fact deliver. And it was something that local leadership in Baltimore felt that they had the ability to do, that we could double the number of youth that we were serving. Even though we had that skeleton crew, it was a place of strength from which to build. And we needed to build and build quickly on those places of strength. So in total, that experience has made it clear to me how valuable summer youth employment can be in the lives of young people. Through that narrow window of time, we touch thousands of lives on a daily basis, and in a way that we don't otherwise touch them through the public schools or other human service programs. In a way that appeals to young people and makes them a part of the place where many of us as adults spend a lot of our lives, the workplace, and where, if you're lucky and you're like me, you really enjoy a part of your life. But I think that we also fundamentally understood that it was not enough, right? That the answer to what was happening in Baltimore would not solely be summer youth employment. So in addition to those investments, what I could bring as a part of the national team was, in fact, the resource that was Brookings to our local team, and to say, what would it take to understand what the best of summer youth employment looks like? What would it take to see summer youth employment as a platform, as a point in time, but to do more? As a way to connect young people to other education and employment opportunities, to do successive, stackable job opportunities over time, to expose more young people to employers, but also expose more employers to the resource and the value that is our young people. I really, couldn't be more pleased about how this paper has come off, and feel that it just has so much to contribute to the field and the field of practice. And I think that contribution stands next to other work that's happening in J.P. Morgan Chase and Bank of America and Citi, and that begins to help us understand sort of, what we have to do. And I just, want to kind of sum up that, bottom line today, I'm of the belief that summer youth employment is important, but it's not enough. For a young person with a strong relationship to caring adults, with a rich academic life whose basic needs are met, youth employment as a standalone entity is an appropriate intervention to slot into their lives. But for a young person who has maybe limited knowledge about the world of work, isn't yet connected to a mentor, might be struggling in school, or isn't making that connection between school and the rest of living, or for whom is experiencing violence or trauma or basic needs going unmet. Summer youth employment is a snapshot in time through which we can connect them, and we need to grab onto that moment, and we need to hold them, and we need to bring them in, and we need to figure out what else that we can wrap around them, because that's the way that we're going to start to make our young people feel like they are a fabric of our community and like they are a part of the fabric of our workforce. And so, not that we have a sense of how we'll do that at Casey. We are struggling every day to figure out what our continued investments are in the youth and young adult space, but I feel that this is part of the struggle, and it is the right struggle. So thank you for letting me share that today. Thank you to Brookings for letting us say a few words. I appreciate your time and attention.